Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. Tomorrow we're going to have our regular full episode, but today I want to talk about something that's come in recent days to more of the forefront. It'll be a quick episode because I got to go to work, but you've probably seen this because a lot of people have been tweeting about it, talking about it, and all of that nonsense. Release the Snyder Cut, which, for those of you who don't know, refers to the the original vision for Zack Snyder's Justice League movie that came out in 2017. Now, a few things to disclose before we leap into this full on. Number one, I like Batman v Superman. I liked the theatrical cut, I liked the extended cut, and I liked the whole thing. Man of Steel, I didn't like it originally, but it grew on me. And now I kind of like it. It's not the direction I would have taken, but for what the movie is, it's a good movie. That said, I did not like Justice League, I did not like Suicide Squad, I liked Wonder Woman, I was looking forward a lot to Shazam, and I loved Shazam. Loved Aquaman. Aquaman could have been broken up into multiple movies with how much stuff there is in it, but for what it is, it's really good. I'm looking forward to Birds of Prey next year and Wonder Woman 1984, and especially the Batman in 2021. One of the things that I'm most excited for at the end of this year is the release of Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW, going in at the end of this year into next year. So, I'm not adverse to DC. I'm not against DC, or anything like that. Here's the thing, though, with the Snyder Cut. To an extent, I understand where this thought process is coming from and why people want to see this movie. And I'm not against seeing a movie with deleted content. I was, as a kid, watching deleted scenes from movies for as long as I can remember. On DVD, they would always have them. I had a copy of Peter Pan on VHS. Everything was the Walt Disney Masterpiece Collection. And it came with a documentary at the end about how they made the movie and had storyboards and all these cool things that you can watch. Same thing with the addition of the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh I had, where I had a documentary about the making of, like, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree and all that stuff. Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone, another good example, that had the deleted scenes were locked behind this kind of mini-game you had to play through. And, basically play through the third act of the movie to get to the deleted scenes, and I did that multiple times just to watch the deleted scenes, and it was pre-internet, or pre-my access to internet, more accurately, because I was like 7 years old, but either way, deleted scenes are always an interesting way to see. It's a little bit of an insight into the movie-making process, because you can see what got cut, when it got cut, why it got cut, what it was replaced with, things of that nature. And I wanted Justice League to be good. I wanted to go in and see a Justice League movie that was going to be fantastic and as good as the Avengers was. But that didn't happen. That didn't pan out. And it's easy to blame Joss Whedon. But based on the plot of the movie we saw, it's a continuation of the core story is still a continuation of Zack's vision, as it was. Now, the movie itself isn't entirely shot. There's other things that are added in that you can tell were added in reshoots. And a lot of the movie was reshot. But here's the thing. If I'm Warner Brothers, what incentive do I have to release the Snyder Cut? Because number one, you got to figure out how you're going to work paying the actors in the movie. Because for starters, there's this issue where how much of the movie is functionally different. And it's like, is it just a director's cut where it's just the same movie but more scenes added in? Because according to Zack Snyder yesterday, the movie's 214 minutes long, which is about 3.5 hours. Does that mean that the movie is basically the same, just with added scenes that's going to flesh out some of the more unresolved issues in the movie? Is it an entirely new movie added from what we got in theaters 2 years ago? We don't know that. No one knows how much the movie is different. We just know the movie is longer. And while the movie being longer may resolve some of the pacing issues, a lot of the larger issues that exist within it come down to, it not being developed properly over the course of the franchise as a whole to that point. Because when you look at this, you have to look at it as a cohesive unit. Essentially, we're looking at it as what was presumed to be a quadrilogy of movies with Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, Justice League. You have to look at it in that regard. And in order to do a deconstruction, which is at its core what these movies are, is Man of Steel a deconstruction of the Superman character, and Batman v Superman is a deconstruction of the relationship between Batman and Superman, and Justice League is, a continuation of that. You can't really deconstruct something that you haven't formally constructed yet. Like, we know Superman from the Christopher Reeve movies. Superman 1, 2, 3, The Search for Peace, and then Returns. We know Superman from that regard. We know him from TV. We know him from comics. We know that. If you're going to do a deconstruction, you should really introduce the character first and be like, this is what he is. And introduce him to a new audience, a modern audience, in a way that makes him look that you can understand what's going on clearly and concisely. So if we're going to deconstruct that, that's not going to work. We've never had a cinematic Batman and Superman meeting up. The only time we've had that was kids who watched Justice League on Cartoon Network or Super Friends or any number of other things. It's this failure at that level that making the movie longer won't rectify. Yeah, pacing issues will be fixed. Yeah, there are issues that would be fixed by a longer cut of the movie, and maybe a cut of the movie that is exactly what it needs to be. But think of it like this. For a lot of the issues in the movie, they're systemic. And for the movie to work, there are only a few ways you can make this movie work, and it needs to kind of click perfectly. And if it doesn't, you have another movie that's better. Don't get me wrong, it'd probably be better, but it'd still be not quite there. And if I'm Warner Bros., I'm like, can we just forget about Justice League? We've had 2 good movies in a row after Justice League. We had, what was it? We had Aquaman, that was well received. We had Shazam, that was well received. We're full steam ahead on Birds of Prey, and that's looking pretty good. We're full steam ahead on Wonder Woman sequel, that's pretty good. It's like, we have, Justice League is in a position where you can say it's an anomaly at this point. It's a bad anomaly. It's the you can say it's the Thor: The Dark World, the Incredible Hulk of DC movies. And it's like Joker just came out, and Joker also, what's it called? Was incredibly well received. So what I'm saying is, it's in Warner Bros.' best interest to kind of just ignore it and have it go away. Now, the issue they have is the director keeps going out and saying that, like, I made the movie wasn't my fault. Like, yeah, I get why he's doing that, because it's kind of like, you being told you did a bad job, and it's like, well, no, I didn't do a bad job. I did my job, but someone else came in and ruined it. And it's like, no one really wants to take that responsibility on themselves, especially when they can kind of say, yeah, I did it. So, really the only thing that happens in a best-case scenario by releasing the Snyder Cut is absolving Zack Snyder from blame for that movie's failures. And quite honestly, if they released it, I would watch it 100%. I would see it in theaters. I would watch it on Netflix. I would get HBO Now if that's how they're going to put it out, or HBO Max, whatever the hell it's called. Whichever way they're going to release this movie, if they ever do, I will watch it. I'm not saying I won't watch the movie. I'm saying that fundamentally, it is against the best interest of Warner Brothers to release this movie ever. The only person it benefits is Zack Snyder. And I don't think that they really care about that at this point. Because they lost their money on Justice League. They fired him. He's not doing Justice League 2. That's never happening now. And I think that we could get an Avengers, like an MCU style movie. And it's like if Aquaman came out first. And you could have, like, ultimately a lot of the issues should have been resolved if you're like, okay, let's put Aquaman before we do Justice League. Let's put Cyborg before we do Justice League. Let's put Flash before we do Justice League. If you did any of that, That would have solved the problem. And it's like a few other issues wouldn't be resolved for me at least, wouldn't be resolved by the Snyder Cut. I don't like the casting of Ezra Miller. I don't think the Snyder Cut would have fixed that because he's the one who cast Ezra Miller in the role. I don't think he's a good Barry Allen. And people will disagree with me on that. That's my feeling on it. So to wrap this up, look, I don't care. This is one of those things that's like, at the end of the day, release the movie, don't release the movie. At the end of the day, it's not going to matter at all. Like, when they released the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman, it did turn around a few people, but not that many. The people who said, oh, this is better, were the people who already liked Batman v Superman to begin with. It didn't really change hearts in the way that people think it did. People who were on the fence at worst were now like, okay, I see it now. And I don't think the Snyder Cut's going to necessarily do that, because the issues that a lot of the movie-going public have with Zack Snyder's trilogy of movies is it goes against what they want in these movies, and it's escapism. It's like not necessarily optimism, because look at Infinity War, like that ends on such a down note. It with no optimism to it, and people loved that. They want to see the heroes the way they saw them in the comics. The comics have, in the words of Kevin Feige, the comics have sold as they did for almost 100 years. Why do we need to change it? And that's what people want when they go to see this movie, this big budget movie. They want to revisit their childhood. And that's ultimately what Justice League doesn't do. And I don't think that and based on Man of Steel and based on Batman v Superman, I don't think that Zack Snyder's cut of that movie would solve that problem either. But look, and anyone who likes a director who had a bad movie would love to give up a reason why the movie happened the way it did. That's not the director's fault. Or, like, if it's a franchise you love and the movie comes out poorly, everyone would love to be able to say, like, look, the director didn't do it. It's like 100%. If Simon Kinberg got stomped on, and like, I would love to see the 2-movie iteration that was originally planned for Dark Phoenix, but that's not happening. They only shot the one. They changed it during production to be 1 movie. I would love to see what Josh Trank's original plan for Fantastic Four was, but that's not going to happen. If they released Justice League Mortal, I believe it was called, which was what's his name's Justice League movie that was in development. If they released Superman Lives with Nicolas Cage, if they did those animated for DC for the DC animated universe, 100% I would buy them and I would watch them. But it's not like it's not something that we gotta sit here and bend over backwards and hope they give it to us eventually. If they give it, great. If they don't, they don't. And quite honestly, begging for it is not going to make it happen any better. Because logistically, there are a ton of things they got to go through. And then it's like, they release it, and it's like, the general movie-going public, as we saw with the reception to... I think that ultimately, the fans of Zack Snyder, who shat upon the deleted scene they released in theaters of the Hulk in the extended, quote-unquote, extended edition of Endgame that they put out to try and break $1 billion, those people may have ended up hurting the what's it called? The chances of this movie being released. Because the CGI for a lot of it's unfinished. And I know that that's a point of contention with some people. Some people say that it was done. Some people say it wasn't. But if the CGI was finished for those scenes and they could release the movie, it would have been released on DVD 2 years ago. That's why I believe that the CGI is completely unfinished. And like, the things that we've seen, it's like, we've seen some renders of things, we've seen, still images. I've never seen a moving video of something that wasn't, that was, a Zack Snyder-only piece of the movie. I've seen things that were hand-drawn storyboards. I've seen, concept art. I've seen renders from proto-CGI, but I've never seen anything that was done and it was completed and moving and ready to be released. So they can do, like, if you look at the director's cut of A Star Is Born, the Judy Garland version, where some of it was lost, so what they have is they have still images overlaid with audio. You can do that, but then the people who were like, oh, the CGI looks terrible, the same people who were complaining, like, oh, they had the nerve to put this out to me, they had the nerve to show me this, those people were the same ones who'd be like, oh, this is fine here. But the thing is, they're not going to take that risk. It's like, oh, we saw what happened there. Now we gotta put money in, and we gotta pay to finish the CGI to make it theatrically ready for these people too. No. So just for future reference, like, look, I can't say for certain the movie's happening or not. I have no insider context. I have no idea if anything is in if anything is in development or not. I'm saying it's unlikely. And I'm saying if it is, I will watch it and we will discuss it on here. And I will give it a fair shake if it comes out. I'm saying it's not likely it is, though. But still, I will hold out hope against hope. Which brings us to what we're going to do tomorrow in our regularly scheduled episode, Slacker. We have Legion of Superheroes #1. We have Pokemon Sword. We have Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Infinite Crisis. We have Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Blackest Night. We have How to Make Superman Relevant Again, because Warner Bros. Apparently has an issue with that. So we got a nice episode coming tomorrow, and we'll be back with that tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. 30-Minute Reviews is a production of Multiple World Productions, available wherever you listen to podcasts. 30-Minute Reviews is hosted and produced by Adam Taylor. The opening theme is Be Epical by Carlos Estella, and the closing theme is Future Bass Uplifting by Alex Cerveza. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamTaylor792, as well as this podcast at 30-Minute Review.